All right, welcome. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going on a journey into a possible future, a future where Bitcoin isn't just an asset, but it's the very foundation of the world. We're going to walk through a story that imagines what it really takes for a single idea to completely reshape society.
So we're actually going to start at the end with this really powerful quote from our story. I mean, think about that. It's a statement that completely redefines power as we know it. So how on earth could we get to a point where that's our reality?
Okay, so let's set the scene here. The year is 2042. Bitcoin has become the backbone of the entire global financial system. It's all built on a decentralized ledger, which is really just a shared, unchangeable record of every single transaction. And what this does is it creates this incredibly transparent economic order, one that governments just can't mess with behind closed doors anymore.
So, who's showing us around this new world? Our guide is a historian named Alina. Now, she's not some major player in all this. She's an observer. She's watching it all happen, vicariously through a public stream as she documents all the events that led up to this brand new era.
So, how do we get to that future in 2042? Well, we've got to go back to a time when this entire idea was met with, massive skepticism and was pretty much just dismissed by everyone in power.
So, on one hand, you've got the establishment, right? Politicians are trying to brush this whole movement off, predicting it's just going to tail off and fail. They even work to vilify its purpose. But then, on the other hand, you had this idea that was just starting to germinate in the minds of millions of people. And the people who believed in it, they were not about to count out this quiet little revolution.
When an idea gets ignored, it doesn't just disappear. Sometimes it just grows in the shadows, taken care of by a really dedicated group until, boom, it becomes a force that is way too powerful to be ignored.
So how did it happen? It really unfolded in 4 key stages. First, germinate. That's when the idea starts spreading, mind to mind. Then came shepherd, where these young developers all over the world started building and securing the network. That led to perk up because real, tangible breakthroughs started to catch the eye of serious investors. And finally, you get to the glance-off stage, where the movement's momentum and confidence got so strong that any criticism just glanced right off. It had no effect.
And look, don't get the wrong idea. This wasn't just some fringe group messing around. This was a highly organized effort. You had global node operators meeting twice a year to seriously debate and roll out protocol upgrades. This was a revolution being built on purpose, with a plan.
So naturally, as this thing starts getting bigger, the old guard wasn't just going to sit back and watch, right? No way. They started to push back. Hard.
And their strategy was pretty clear. Governments started to impound mining equipment. They tried to enter, which is just a fancy way of saying bury, all the cryptographic research deep inside classified labs. The whole goal was to completely efface the concept, basically wipe it off the map, erase it from the system entirely.
But here's the thing. You can't really bury an idea, can you? Knowledge, it has this funny way of surviving. It kind of seeps through the cracks of even the most rigid systems and finds a home in the most unexpected places.
And that is exactly what happened here. I mean, even inside the very organizations trying to shut this thing down, you had these young analysts who just refused to shirk the intellectual challenge. They started studying cryptography in secret, keeping the knowledge alive right from the inside.
So trying to stamp it out didn't work. And the turning point? It wasn't some big, violent revolution. Nope. It was a single, really smart proposal that came from inside the old system itself. And this changed everything.
So who came up with it? A really sagacious economist. Basically a super wise, insightful thinker who saw a way to bring these two worlds together instead of letting them fight it out.
Okay, so here's the brilliant part of the proposal. It wasn't about destroying the old system. Instead of fighting it, he just suggested that central banks should stow or, just set aside a piece of their reserves in these new decentralized assets. It was such a smart move. It was a bridge between the old world and the new. It let the establishment hedge against this new reality instead of fighting a battle they were probably going to lose anyway.
And this wasn't some back-of-the-napkin idea. It was presented in a formal, official document, super historic. And get this, the cover was embossed with a golden symbol, a direct nod to the very network they were talking about integrating. I mean, what a moment. That's a sign of profound recognition. And really, at that point, there was no going back. The proposal spread, and it brought with it a new way of thinking that leaders all over the world would eventually have to don, to wear, to adopt. It was a mindset that valued transparency over absolute control.
So, this brings us right back where we started. full circle. We're back in 2042 with our historian Elena as she's documenting the final outcome of this quiet revolution.
And as Elena finishes recording all this, she just gets choked up. She has to choke back her emotions because she gets it. She understands the incredible weight of what she's just witnessed. Not just a financial change, but a fundamental shift in how human history itself gets recorded.
Which brings us right back to that quote from the very beginning. It's the whole point of the story. The ledger of human events, of value, of everything. It was once controlled by the powerful, by the kings and the banks. But now, it belonged to an open, decentralized network that no one could change.
So we end right where we started, but now with a question for all of us, for our own future. If we lived in a world where our history, our story, isn't written by the winners or the powerful, but by a code that can't be broken, what does that actually mean for us? What kind of world is that?